Hello, welcome to this Laura's Painted Minis. I am Laura, and here we are, Kobolds. Almost knocked over my coffee. That would not have been fun. So, I was kind of thinking through this morning of what to paint next, as well as kind of color scheme, what we've got going on. This is kind of right now probably a lot of mid-tone, like mid values. It's not like very light or very dark. So I'm gonna do the leather next, since that's kind of like the next biggest thing, and it butts up against the skin. So you either gotta go really light or really dark. And I think I'm gonna go ahead and take it light. I'm gonna start off, as I always do, with this shadow color, which is a mix of chestnut gold and brown liner. It's kind of almost like a darker version of NMM, the Reaper's NMM Gold. So here's that, the gold shadow, I mean. Let's see. Trying to think about these up here. They definitely look more like they're meant to be like linen wraps, not necessarily like not necessarily leather braces or anything like that. So I think I'm gonna do those like just kind of a linen color. We've got some tassels or something down here. We have the female hair folk finished up and started on the little potions, female potioneer from Reaper's Ghoulie Bag. Actually, will work really well for a possible encounter. And I hope it didn't throw too many people off. Me not streaming on last Thursday. It's kind of like a. For some reason, I was getting some like. It's easier to just call it a migraine, but it was definitely more like what's called a cluster headache. It's still similar in that it's really painful and not fun, just like most headaches. I'm ignoring the studs for now. It's definitely like very obviously meant to be studded leather. You can see that they sculpted it in very definitively. And I will do those later. But I mean, there's no rule to say that you have to do that. I just find it's easier to not try and like paint around tiny little studs. And that was the layer that I just did was mostly chestnut gold. With a little bit of that previous mix. Now the first highlight here is going to be chestnut gold mixed with treasure map. Had already used it on the tail, so and was going to need that kind of a color to help bring up the chestnut gold. And we kind of already were going a little bit yellow with this down here, so I'm fine with going more yellowish leather. That means that, so there's a little bit, you can tell There's a little bit of like some fabric or something there. So that just means we'll probably do that in some sort of a blue. And then, because there won't really be room to do any other colors other than one more on that. So, since it needs to be a triad, basically, then that means blue, because red, yellow, blue. Primary triad. This color is mostly treasure map with a little bit of the previous mix. And I'll do a glaze on that one. I'll probably end up needing to do a glaze on all of these. Specifically for the transition between the shadow and this color, so it's quite a bit of a difference in values. Other mixes are a lot closer together. go back to this one. Add some touches of the shadow back in. I think I did a better job on this one of not losing the shadows. So it's kind of the other one that needs a bit more touching up there. I also missed kind of what they had done here. So now we can see a little better that it's kind of like a crease or whatever. I'm not like, I could make these really high, I don't know, high end, however you want to describe that. But these are going to be the paint to sell minis. So, and I do have kind of a goal with those to try and get one done enough a month, done per month. Ooh. So like when I say that, I was thinking like one listing per month. So what that means for these guys is I need to get all 5 of these kobolds done. I do try to still be above tabletop, like slightly above tabletop standard. Which I feel like once you start doing layerings instead of just like base coat, wash, and dry brush highlight, then you're kind of already getting above tabletop standard. That's what it seems like is maybe the case. That or people are doing, I mean, there's also speed paints. I know slap chop method. With speed paints. Which, if you're smart with like the paint that you put on underneath it, I think it has to be regular paint because some of those, don't quote me on it, but I've heard, I think some of those speed paints can reactivate if you use more speed paint on top of it. It's possible they've been able to figure out a way to get around that. But yeah, you can get a decent looking mini with speed paints for sure. If you know, basically create your highlights, or if you have like a airbrush. So yeah, airbrush, and can spray on kind of like a zenithal undercoat. You basically have built-in highlights and shadows before you put the speed paints on. But you're also kind of, you're not gonna be, you're not gonna be going as fast as those who are literally just doing the slap job method of like you slap on the speed paints, or someone who does what I did when I first started, and like base coats and throws a wash on top of the base coat. But yeah, anyway, since I kind of ended up taking my time with the scales of the body, I need to do the rest of the stuff a little more quickly. So that means I will probably rely on glazes a lot more, rather than trying to get my blends to be fairly smooth to begin with. Well, the mixes I have for this leather are actually pretty good for, they're pretty close to each other other than that. The base coat shadow and this color. I just do a second coat of this color on the areas that I want to highlight next, kind of bringing up the color a bit. are moving right along with these guys. Definitely think I'll be able, since this is the last one, other than making up a glaze to just smooth anything out that's maybe not very well blended. Probably then move on and get the, so I'm also going to do a dark leather on this, so I'm not painting the belt or these, you can see these kind of some pouches, so those will be kind of more of a dark leather. So we should have enough time for me to at least get a start on the dark leather. So again, that's just going to be the belt and these little pouches off to the side. Pretty sure they're pouches. They seem to rounded. I don't know how to describe it. Rounded, but like it's definitely kind of forming a little bit to the body rather than being more rounded and rigid like a bottle or flask would be. Hey there, Kodiak. So I am realizing I'm getting myself in a little bit of a bind with this because there is like some cords here that looks very much just like, you know, some rope and whatnot. So if I were to do like stereotypical rope color, it'd be pretty close to what I'm doing with the leather. But I do know I have some fabric down here, and then I'm gonna do blue. So we got kind of red and yellow already. So I think to make sure I'll use the blue probably on that to provide a different kind of contrast of sorts. Just so that it can still be seen. Noticeable. Alright. Get a wash made here. Let's see. I want it to stay pretty light, so I need to be careful about did I say wash? I meant glaze. If I said wash, I meant glaze. So do just a tiny smidge of that really light color, and we'll add in the water. And I think I really only need like a light glaze. So just try to make sure that it's going to be light. Yeah. You can see that's just a very light tint. So we'll do that for our glaze. We'll go back to the first one I did, just so that we know that we're doing this over dry paint. And I'm going to do this very carefully so I don't have to worry too much about the whole coffee stain effect that you don't want. Unless, of course, you're trying to make it look like there's coffee stains on something. Just rinse and repeat. Yeah, we got a little time to kind of sit here and think about. So we're definitely go darker. And we know we are gonna have like already another color on here, so we'll keep it a dark brown of sorts. I could go black, I guess. Yeah, let's do that. Let's go black. Remove other colors off to the side. Get out a black. I'll go ahead and use up some more of my Death Knight Black. Hey there, buddy. Huh. That's weird. Yeah, these are Kobolds. They're from Next Level Miniatures. Glad you were finally able to join us, buddy. I'm pretty sure that I have enough of this that I can do the belts and the pouches. You know, it is getting kind of low. Sorry, I meant to keep this on screen. Then since I'm gonna go ahead and mix up other mixes. Probably work on it some more tonight. Let's see what else. Really only need this little bit. So yeah, I'll use treasure map again. Getting a lot of use on this mini. Let's see. We'll see how these interact with each other. I need to refill my water. So I think there, if I remember correctly, there's a teeny bit of like purple or something. Although it's definitely going more gray. But maybe that's just because of treasure map having like being kind of more of a yellowish off-white. All right. Thanks for dropping in, buddy, even if it was only for a little bit. We're only able to chat for a little bit. I'll be ending here real soon anyway. I can hear my toddler just woke up. So yeah, I kind of like these. This one's maybe a little bit too light. So I can take just a tiny bit of that. See if it just needs a little bit.
What are you doing?
I'll see you in a bit. It does look kind of purplish, I guess. And black is such a hard color. I find it's just easier, especially when I'm only doing like slightly above tabletop standard, to just not worry too much about getting too light with the highlights, and instead just like actually going for it and just getting, you know, a really light gray here, and then just doing a glaze over top of it, and just kind of planning on having to do a glaze for sure with the black to tone down so that it still looks black, but we also still have highlights. So yeah, if you're only going for like tabletop or slightly above tabletop, it works. It's not like, it's not going to look super awesome. It's not something that you're going to be like, ooh, I want to put this on display or anything, but it works. But yeah, that's where we'll end. So Thursday, so I mentioned earlier that I got started on the Potioneer mini that was in the Reaper's Ghoulie bag. So yeah, we got the skin and the hair mostly done already, so I'll be working on this, like, calling it a shawl. So yeah, well, that is what we'll be doing Thursday. Hope you come back and are able to join me. Otherwise, next Monday we'll definitely be back with the Kobolds. So, thanks for joining, and I will see you Thursday, hopefully. Bye.